Welcome back to another SuperCoach video with me, JD. But today we are going through the perfect team with 2 weeks of hindsight. So if I could travel back in time and give JD of 2 weeks ago a team to start the year, this is what the team would be. So I'm going to quickly go through the decisions I've made, and I guess it's probably best to start with the rules for this. So I'm not trying to maximize points on field for the first 2 weeks. That's not the goal of this. Although I'm sure that if you tallied up all the points that this team would have got through the first 2 weeks and had my captain options from the last 2 weeks, which were Neil and Took, I'm sure it would be on the top of the leaderboard for overall as well. But we're not just maximizing for on-field points for the first 2 weeks. It's also about being set up for the future and having the cash generation to propel you forward. And I think this is an interesting exercise because we can compare our starting teams to this to see where we went wrong, both in structure, but then also some of the picks. And then we can also obviously compare our teams now and look at how many we actually have versus what's on here. And I probably should have counted mine beforehand, but I think I know my team well enough I should be able to get there anyway. So let's go through it. So in defense, just the 4 primos. I know my team has 5. So it's one thing that, I mean, I can't even say I got wrong because what this team has done cheekily is use a loophole at D8 with the knowledge that came into play, or Skinner came in through long-term injury. So we got a 4th rookie. I don't think Gibcus is a particularly good, it's not a disaster, but not a particularly good for 4th rookie. And I know people started Wilmot as the preferred loophole, and that hasn't panned out either. Or O'Driscoll, who's got a sub game. He might actually get another game this week, in which case maybe O'Driscoll is a better option than Skinner. But yeah, in terms of the premiums we picked, so Stewart and Hall, Hall is just nutso with his scoring, and the fact now that I've got 2 weeks of data and he hasn't done his hamstring, I would have gone back and picked him. But given his age and his injury history and the fact that he did a hamstring just in the preseason, not someone I could have ever started with, but looks to have been the right call so far. Stewart was someone that I was a little bit wary about, and I went crisp over him in this position. So, yeah, if I had my time over, I would have picked Stewart, even though Chris obviously had a great weekend. Stewart's just gone the back-to-back 103s, but he's only had 3 kickouts in each game. Geelong have been on top. There hasn't been too much ball in their back half. Well, there was a little bit with the Swans, but they were incredibly efficient. Like, I think it was just 5 or 6 behinds for the Swans. So, yeah, Stewart, I'm a big believer on at the moment, and he's going to be an upgrade target for me. I think it's somewhat fortunate non-owners such as myself haven't been punished for not having him, because he could have gone bigger in both those games so far. So yeah, so Stewart, Hall, 1 and 2. I've got Crisp and Dawson. Dawson and Crisp are both okay, but yeah, if I could swap them for those 2 right now, I would. Shorty is one that I have, and many others have, very popular player. Looked average as in week 1, but still got to 106. And then this week was just a kicking machine, racking it up. Lots of kick-ins. I think he must have had over 10. Just lots of cheap touches, but also working really hard off the ball to get those kicks as well. And so at his price point, he is value. I mean, he's 40k cheaper than Stewart, or 50k cheaper than Stewart. And I think there's a chance that they go close on average for the year. And then at D4, no surprise, which would be the mid-price or cheaper option of the backline, is Hewitt has gone, back-to-back tons. 124 average through the first 2 games looks amazing. Some people still have doubts with Walsh and Cripps and Chera and Kennedy all playing in there. How does Hewitt get enough mid-time? It hasn't been a problem so far. We've obviously got to wait and see what happens when Chera gets back, but my tip is that he continues to get enough CBAs to score really well into the probably low 100s and making him a very good value cheaper. A very good value keeper for the price that you're paying. At D5 and 6, Hinge and McCartan, probably no surprises here. The 2 standout defenders when it comes to rookies. Both had great scores on the weekend, which should help their cash down through the next couple of weeks. Easily going to make 150k, and both are going to give you serviceable on-field scores for the most part. I have a feeling that one of them might drop off sooner rather than later, and this could be where one of the first upgrades in this team structure would come. But yeah, happy to have them there for now. And then Skinner, we talked about. This is definitely a bit of hindsight with the injury going on. And then DeConning at D7. I think the thing that might surprise people somewhat is Bowie. Haven't got him in there, and like with the hindsight of the 151 and the fact that he's got a low break even and the Salem injury, why wouldn't you start him? And it just turns out with this structure, it hasn't worked out perfectly well. There's a few good players that have been missed just because you can't fit them all in. And I think Bowie is one that I'm happy to miss because he's not a keeper. I don't think he's going to kill on cash generation. So happy to take him out to fit in everyone else that I've got. And this is something crazy like a 13 keeper team. So with perfect cash generation, it'd be crazy if anyone started, this perfect 30. In the midfield, we've got what is almost my exact midfield now. So McRae, Miller, Neal. I don't know if any of these need explanation apart from the fact that they're all averaging like 140 and above and have just looked amazing through the first two games. They've got, McRae and Miller are both durable, and they're obviously better picks than the two that people were comparing against when it comes to Steele and Oliver through the first 2 weeks. And then Neal is that ultra value at the 540k price mark. I think the two that are missing that people ask about are Brayshaw and Petrarca. And yeah, if structure allowed a fourth primo mid, I could see myself using either of those here. Brayshaw, I think, is 580 and Petrarca's 600. So cheaper than McRae and Miller. And they've, I think, probably outscored them or out-averaged them, or it'd be close through the first 2 weeks. But yeah, McRae and Miller have the runs on the board and they have that durability. And so if I was to give myself a team now, I would still want those over Petrarca and Brayshaw at my M1 and M2, just so I could fit in some other players elsewhere. So that's a decision I made. And then Cripps, I think, is a bit of a no-brainer at 450k. He's gone 147, which is actually higher average than McRae and Miller, looking like he is potentially a keeper, or at least serious cash generation for that 450k starting price. So very happy with that. And then Raul, who did have a down game, but he showed in round one what he can do. And I think that is someone that is going to make a lot of money in the midfield. And I wouldn't want to bet against him in this team. To finish out the rookies really should be a bit of a no-brainer, I think. So Horn, Francis, Dacos, Rochelle, Ward, Stevens, and McDonald have all shown either great scoring potential, great job security, or both through the first 2 weeks. There aren't really any other midfield rookies, and like maybe Hoff comes back this week. Saligo was a sub, Mead was a sub, Owens got dropped. So, we're short here, which is why Rochelle's in the midfield. In my team, this is my exact midfield, pick for pick, apart from having Berry over Rochelle and Rochelle in my forward line. But yeah, perfect team. It's no Berry, I don't think. It's Rochelle in the midfield. And then in the rucks, this one could be a little bit controversial. I was actually trying to get Grundy and English as my ruck 2, but it just doesn't work out with the money, and it's one of the players I'm happy to drop to get everyone else that I've got in here. So yeah, I mean, Grundy is the obvious pick, and we're saying it all preseason. He's the lock of the rucks when it comes to Darcy, Gawn, and Grundy. So Grundy was the obvious lock, and that's so far been the case. I don't think his scoring has set the world on fire by any means, and I mean, he might even struggle to manage a 110 average, but I think it's going to be better than what Gawn and Darcy put up, and he's got the durability, and he was the cheapest of the three. So yeah, very happy with that pick. And then Witts at R2, I actually think if you take out English, he is the second performing ruck for the year when it comes to points. And I said it's not all about points, it's more about like how does this team set you up for both keepers and cash generation, and it looks like Witts is going to be a very strong option for both of these. The midfield of Took and Raul and Anderson at his feet definitely seems to have helped him when it comes to hit out to advantage numbers that may have struggled in previous years of him rucking. And I don't think we could necessarily see him average 100, which is what he's going at the moment, but it could be mid to high 90s. And to be honest, that looks like enough for the rucks at the moment for this to be very strong as a pick until you need to swap him out for someone like a Gawn or a Darcy later on. And then Hayes at R3, so no Dixon in this team. Dixon is someone I probably would try and fit in if we knew he was going to be back and play for longer, but with Darling returning much earlier and him already missing a week due to protocols, which is going to hurt his cash generation, I think he's someone that you could probably pass on if you had your time over. And Dixon is at my R3 at the moment with Hayes in my forward line, but yeah, Hayes is been one of the standouts. He's obviously a little bit at risk this week with job security, just with Ryder potentially coming back after being successful through the VFL on the weekend. So he's someone that could turn into a donut for us, but I think he's going to get games throughout the year when either Marshall or Ryder misses, and neither have played a full season in a little bit. So there will be more games for Hayes throughout the year, and he'll make us money then if he doesn't make it for us now. And with this team, definitely not required for the on-field scoring. So yeah, all three of these players I have in my team at the moment as well, which is a really good sign. And it's actually crazy how much overlap there is with my team, and it's still being so far behind the back of the pack. I just think like it's this year's wild when it comes to how well people have done. And I guess part of that is not having Hewitt and Cripps through the first 2 weeks really hurt me, as well as one of the men we're going to mention in the forward line, which is Heaney, who has absolutely gunned it through the first 2 weeks, kicking 8 goals, going a tick over 140 at the moment. Can he keep it up? My bet is not. He regresses a bit, but he is clearly a keeper at the 450k price mark in a line that is really hard to pick keepers. So yeah, Heaney, Dunkley, and Butters. I don't think there's anything controversial there. What's crazy is that these were my 3 forward premiums through the whole preseason until Longmire got us with the fake out and played Heaney all 4 in the preseason game, and then I took Heaney out. Yeah, so it's actually crazy. I could have had basically this exact forward line. Cogs at F4, which I don't think is a surprise to anyone, was the pick of the preseason when it came to mid-price. So like basically first in for a lot of people's teams. He's gone at 90 so far. I don't think he's going to be a keeper for us, but he's going to make a lot of nice money. His job security is perfect, and they haven't stuffed him around with his role too much. So we're actually getting, good points out of him. And then the 2 mid-prices, there were so many we looked at through the preseason. Rayner, Curnow, McGovern, Brody, Cherry, and there's more like Rioli, Ralph Smith, whoever it may be. I mean, Ralph Smith, not a bad shout, by the way, if he continues to play games. But Brody and Cherry would be the pick of the litter so far. Brody is an interesting one because he has shown amazing scoring potential. 101 off 60% game time is phenomenal scoring rate. But the fact that they are not giving him more time on ground than that is a worry. And we've also got concerns about what happens when Mundy and eventually Fife come back. I think when Fife comes back, he gets dropped. I'm not sure if he will get dropped beforehand because they are talking about debuting Erasmus. O'Driscoll looked good for very limited time on the weekend. And presumably these guys can run out games. So I think there's a chance that Brody ends up not being right here, and maybe someone like Naish is good. But really it comes down to how many more games Brody gets. And I would just take the upside risk on having Brody in the team at the moment if I could pick from 2 weeks ago all over again. And then, Cherry is the no-brainer one that we're really strong on and is in my team. Has been since, the preseason games. And when we found out really he was going to be the number 1 ruck. So averaging 100, obviously he's not going to get 120 every week. He's not going to play a depleted West Coast every week. But looking like he could average more than both Brody and Cogs for a cheaper price. And he's going to get DPP eligibility in round 6, which means we can use him for ruck cover. And in this structure, that is so appealing because Witt is someone that maybe could get rested after coming off an ACL. They need to give him a break at some point. Maybe something flares up. So to be able to just have to kind of use Hayes for cover until R6 and then have that flexibility with Cherry is huge. And then the forward bench, I mean, I've mentioned it already. Naish is who I would love to have in here over Durden, but it's just not going to be possible. Durden obviously has really hurt his cash gem with a 24 on the weekend and is going to be a slow burn. But the reality is there's not that many other good rookies that you could pop in here instead. Durden's job security seems decent, and with Carlton's fixture really opening up over the next 7 weeks, but really the next 17 weeks, they have a very, very soft fixture from here. Durden can hopefully have a couple of those Jimmy Rowe-esque games last year where he goes back-to-back 80s, makes us 150k, and then you can move him on. It's just someone that's going to have to sit there for a bit. And then Nick Martin obviously didn't play last week, missing with COVID protocols. He didn't have COVID himself. I think he was just a contact. So that's good. Should mean that there won't be any lagging effects on cardio or anything like that when he gets back out there. But 114 the first week, 102k, and his job security looks pretty good at the moment. I mean, Merritt's gone for 8 weeks. You had Langford that's out for a while. Cox has a minor injury, but he'll get back up. And his week one effort went past, I think, a lot of players in the team already. So he looks like he's got good job security mixed with great scoring potential. And that is how I would finish out my perfect team, or the team for 2022. So yeah, I guess just to go back, what are the big differences? So between my structure and this, so I don't have Heaney in the forward line. I'm playing extra rookie there at the moment, but I do have Dunkley, Butters, Cogs. I had McGovern instead of Brody. I had Cherry, and I had Durden. Martin and Hayes, I hadn't picked as rookies in round one, which has already cost me 2 trades and really unfortunate. I prioritized job security over scoring potential this year, and that just backfired spectacularly in a way that I couldn't have predicted. My ruck line is, it's Grundy, Wits, and I do have Hayes in my forward line, but I've got Dixon here instead. The midfield, so the premiums we nailed this year, we've got all 3 premiums. We nailed Rao. The miss was on Cripps, and we've got Berry in here. Well, I've got Cripps in my side now. He's being traded in this week. So fixing that one, better late than never. And then Berry is in my midfield. I don't think it's a bad pick by any means, and it could come good. So it's definitely not a bad pick, but it hasn't been as amazing as what we'd hoped through the first 2 weeks. And then, the rookies have all of these rookies, so pretty much nailed it on that front. Everyone in this midfield I now have. Everyone in the ruck line I have. Everyone in the forward line I have, except for Heaney and Brody, which are going to hurt me, I think, but we'll see. And then in defense, this is probably where the biggest change is. So I have one more premium than this. So Whitfield, who's underperformed through 2 weeks. And then I've got Dawson and Crisp instead of Stewart and Hall. And I'd make that switch if I could. And then, Short, we started. Hewitt, I wanted to start and didn't. I should have just backed myself on that. The Discord did, and they've crushed it by having Hewitt early. Trading him in this week, so I do have him now. And then Hinge, McCutton, and SDK all nailed. And then Skinner is a little bit of hindsight heroics that I never would have been able to predict. So it is what it is. But I don't know how many that is in terms of out of 30, how many of these I've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I'm at 25 out of 30, and I think my team is still pretty far off the pack, mainly because I'm 4 trades down now and have less cash in the bank than this. But let me know how close your teams are to this and what you disagree with, because what I see as the perfect team, it's not universal because I'm not maximizing for points. I'm trying to build the best team with 2 weeks of hindsight data. So let me know what you would do differently. Maybe you'd have a different structure. Maybe you'd pick some different players. Very keen to see how this lands with you all and what you agree or disagree with. But 25 out of 30 for me is, I think that's a really good hit rate 2 weeks in to have 25 of my 30 ideal. And you would imagine that in a year where you've done that you would be flying, but it's not to be. It's not to be. All right, so let me know what you think. This is obviously just a shorter video on a little bit of a theoretical thing, a little bit of fun, but hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one.